This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese, and I'm here with Pauline Sewards from Bristol, who is a performer. Would you describe yourself as a performance poet or
Yeah.
a poet?
A poet, I guess.
Do you read from? I mean, do you perform from memory or do you actually read?
I do sometimes
Which?
perform from memory.
You do.
But more often these days I read.
Right.
And I never really think of myself as a poet, to be perfectly
No?
honest. I just think of myself as someone who writes poetry. I feel that we're all poets, even people who don't know it yet.
You're a poet and you don't know it.
In the rhythm of our language and our ideas. So I never think I'm quite there. I never think I'm quite a poet, really.
So what inspires you? Is there any particular genre that inspires your poetry?
I like reading a lot. I read really eclectically.
Novels or poetry?
Novels and poetry and factual books.
English?
Yeah, mostly English.
English?
Yeah.
English writers, I mean.
Yeah, I'm afraid. I sometimes read in translation, but...
Right.
And I would like to expand my view of things, really. But I think what makes me write poems is often it's just the sound of words or a little kind of idea, and I like writing poetry rather than a longer form because I can keep it in my head and sort of develop it, going to work in those moments in the day that are a bit fallow. It can sort of grow like a seed grows into a tree.
Do you have a particular genre? I mean, because you work in mental health. I mean, are some of your poems quite psychological or?
Sometimes I write sort of inspired by other people's stories, but I think that's quite difficult because, you don't want to assume that you understand other people's experience.
You mean mental health?
Yeah, but obviously I'm kind of involved in that scenario all the time,
Right.
It's bound to influence me. But sometimes it's just things I've on the news or memories that come back in my head very acutely.
You mean from your childhood?
Yeah.
And where was your childhood spent?
In Lincolnshire.
In the countryside or in a town?
In the countryside, about 10 miles from the much maligned town of Skegness.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I used to work there during the holidays.
Right, that's a seaside resort,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yes.
So that was quite a lot of fun because that's like a city
Yes.
during the summer holidays.
Right.
So it was quite a contrast to kind of the sleepy countryside town where I was brought up.
And did your parents influence you? Were they literary people or creative people?
Yeah, my parents are amazing, really. My dad was an electrician and used to race pigeons.
Oh, right.
And my mum...
With messages?
There could have been messages, but mainly it was to win races.
Oh, how
and
interesting.
also to be like to show in the winter time when they weren't racing, they were show pigeons. So
How many pigeons did he have?
200 maybe.
Oh my God!
And they'd be sort of smuggled into the house and shampooed, and their feathers would be gleaming.
Oh wow!
And also there was a thing about the eyes. Like you could read the eye of a pigeon and know whether it would fly well. And
You're joking.
Yeah, honestly, it's a science.
Have you written about all that?
A tiny bit. I'm going to write more.
Gosh.
My dad passed away 10 years ago.
Right. How unusual.
Yeah. And he was a great storyteller.
Yeah. I bet he was a character. Did
He
he do it
was.
for money? Was there money
no.
involved?
There are prizes.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
People don't gamble or anything when
there was gambling.
Yes, yes.
He did it for the love of it.
Right,
He
right.
desperately wanted to win. The biggest race was called Lerwick, from the far north of Scotland.
Right.
That's the one he wanted to win.
Right.
I believe that in the last few years it's got much more commercial,
Okay.
and people buy pigeons at great expense, and then they
Wow.
win races, a bit like footballers,
Gosh.
really.
Yeah.
But it's something, I've kept all of his
Memorabilia.
books, loads of it. I just can't let it
Oh,
go.
you must.
And I'm going to write about
yeah,
it.
you must. Yes. And what about your mother?
My mum left school at 15 and went to work in the local hospital as, I think she was called a kitchen maid. And she's a very bright woman.
She's still alive?
She is. And she became the president of the local history society.
Right, right.
She's very interested in all the sort of local history of the town, and
Right.
together we're quite interested in family history as well. But has got so many books. Her house is lined with books, and she's very interested in poetry.
And where does she live?
In the same place in Lincolnshire.
Okay, okay.
Where I grew up.
Do you see her often?
I see her at least twice a month.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
How old is she now?
She was 87 about 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
And her name is Maisie.
Amazing.
So she's lived long enough for the name Maisie to become ultra fashionable again.
Yes, yes. It's like Ada, Alice, Mavis.
Yes,
all those Gladys,
all those names.
Rose,
Yes.
all those very old-fashioned.
Yeah.
How interesting. So you've published a book, or had a book published, I should say, and it's got a. Show us the book.
It's called This Is the Band.
Yeah, and why? What inspired you there? Because it was set in Brighton, wasn't it?
Yeah, the poem This Is the Band is set in Brighton, and it's about basically over the years in my house in Bristol, lots of musicians have been to stay, lots of friends of my son and daughter and friends of
Oh, because your
theirs.
daughter's into music. Yes.
Yeah, and I was watching a band in Brighton, and I suddenly realised that I knew them because they'd slept in the sitting room.
Right, right.
And I I kind of recognised them. Oh, that's the person with the curly hair who was on the settee the other day. But, I mean, I'm hoping in the poem to write, what I was really thinking was about how you never know what's going to develop. You never know what friendships are going to develop. You never know what your children's lives are going to be like, going far beyond us. And the other aspect of it was my best friend was with me, and she'd hurt her leg like many, many years before when we shared a house. She hurt her leg, and it led to complications. I mean, she was fine, but it led to complications, and she just had an operation like many years later. So we were watching the band, and we were being very careful about how much dancing we did. So it's kind of a love poem to her.
Yeah. And what's the name of your friend?
Fiona.
Okay. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, and thank you very much. And we'll continue again. Bye.
Thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't be drinking my coffee.